This is a brief tutorial of the game Let's Go to Japan as played on Board Game Arena. Let's Go to Japan is a game where you are scheduling out a trip to Japan using these various event cards between Tokyo, which are represented in blue, and Kyoto, which are represented in pink. And each day you will schedule usually 3 different activities. One of those activities will score as a highlight of the day, which is a way to get quite a few points. But you also get points just for each event. And as you go along, you're collecting various tags. You're trying to organize your week so that you're not traveling too many times between Tokyo and Kyoto. And there's a few other things to consider as you go. The key thing that you are tracking as you are planning out your day or your week, again, 6 days, probably 3 things per day. There's sometimes you can get 4, but it's usually just 3. And as you go, each time you have one of these cards, they're going to give you these various tags or movement on the stress meter. So as you can see, this card here, it gives you 2 points just for having it. It also gives you 1 of the yellow tag here, and 1 of the positive financial stress tags, which means you go up 1 on this stress meter. Whereas this one gives you 2 of the pink tag. They each have different names, but I don't remember what they are. And 1 negative stress on the negative financial stress. There's also positive and negative physical stress. It's this lightning bolt, but the reason that it's differentiated in these is because some highlights, some scoring conditions require specific types of stress. This wants you to have 3 positive financial stress, and then it gives you the bonus. Some say if you have negative of a certain type of stress, then it will give you bonus as well. But when you place these cards down, you're going to make stacks of 3, and only the bottommost card will score based on this highlight. So the ones that are above it will kind of slide behind it, and you get the points and you get the tags, but you don't get to score the highlight. So you're kind of planning that out. And whenever you place a card, you decide, do I want to put it on the top so that I can score the highlight, or do I want to just put it behind so that I can just get the tags and the points? This process plays over 13 rounds. For the first 4, you're picking one of the 2 cards that are given to you. One's from Tokyo and one's from Kyoto. And then you're passing the other one. That happens for the first 4 rounds. And then for the next 5 rounds, it's a combination of picking up cards that had been passed to you, and then also drawing again from the 2 decks. And this kind of shows exactly how that works. BGA takes care of it all for you, so it doesn't come into play too much, but you can do a little bit of hate drafting, and you can plan a little bit based on what's been passed, because whenever something is passed, it will be put in one of these 2 piles to say, hey, over these 4 rounds, you've been passed 3 blue cards and 1 pink card. So there's some planning you can do with that. But basically, what you need to know is on your turn, you're playing a card or 2 cards, and you're passing a card or 2 cards. Then after the last of the 13 rounds, you go through each day, you calculate up your tags, and then you score the highlight if you qualify for it. Now, it's important to note that you're not scoring these highlights or these points in the top corner until the end of the game, until you have your full week planned. And whenever you see it requiring some sort of tags, either these circle tags that you'll track over time, over the week, or these stress tags, those have to be accumulated as you go throughout the week. So if I place this card in Monday, it's going to be a lot harder to get those 4 pink tags before this highlight fulfills. Now, the card gives me 2, so that's helpful, but I would need 2 more at some point before this highlight scores. So if it's on Monday, that's more difficult, but if it's Friday or Saturday, chances are I've accumulated those pink tags by the time it gets to that. So it's important to understand that it goes in order from top to bottom: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And each highlight looks at the entire past, including the card that it is on, and sees if you've qualified based on that. And then it gives you some sort of reward. So in this case, if you have accumulated 3 financial positive stresses, just the tags, it doesn't matter where you are on the track, we'll talk about that later, but if you've at least have seen that many, you get 1 on the card, and you've seen 2 other specifically positive financial stresses, you get 6 points, you get a wild token, and you get an extra yellow tag. This one, if you get 4 of the pink tags, then you get 2 points for every pink and blue tag together. So this would be something you would probably want to put towards the end of the game if you want to use this highlight, because then you can kind of see how many you can get both of those, that pink and the blue, up high, so that you can get quite a few points based on that. And again, each one is going to have different conditions. Some of them will say you can score this if you haven't seen a specific tag, so those you may want to put earlier, so it decreases the likelihood that you've seen those. So on your turn, you're simply going to choose one of these cards and choose where to play it. So for instance, I chose this blue card, then it gives me a highlight to say where do you want to place it in the week. I make that choice. Oh, I actually switched over to the pink card, it looks like. Which one did I do? I was very indecisive in this first round. There we go. So I placed this blue card on Monday. Now currently it is the highlight that will be scored. But if I put a card over top of it in the future, then I'll still get these tags and these points, but I won't score this highlight. Another important thing to note is that when you fill 3 events in a day, that day gives you a bonus. It doesn't score. You don't score the highlight or the cards yet. That only happens at the end of the game. But you do get a bonus based on whatever, and these are random, but they're the same for everybody, whatever of these tags are in the top. And so basically you look at this tag, so this is the Monday tag, and if I fill this Monday up with 3 cards, then I will count how many of this tag I have within those 3 cards. And you get one of these bonuses based on that. If it's only once, then I get this bonus. If it's twice, I can pick one of these 2. Or if it's 3 times, I can pick any of these bonuses. We'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to scoot forward a bit in the game so that you can kind of see how this week starts to fill out, and we can talk about some of these bonuses, the trains, and the stress meter. Okay, this is a bit later in the game. You can see I've filled up quite a bit of my week. I haven't put anything on Saturday yet, but I've filled up completely Monday and Wednesday. Remember, you can only typically have 3 events in a single day. And in some cases, I did well to match the icons. Like in the Wednesday here, I got 3 icons, which gave me a bonus when I scored this day. But in this case, I didn't. And it's okay. You can still put cards in there. I just didn't get the bonus when I filled that day. This one I may fill and just get 1 for the bonus, which still is helpful. You can note that there are orange cards as well. Orange cards can be either blue or pink. You decide when you go through and score it. So for example, this orange, because it's in between 2 blue ones, I'll probably want a blue. So let me talk about that. So as you go throughout your week, you're going to change at certain points from blue to pink, or from pink to blue. That is you traveling from Tokyo to Kyoto, or vice versa. And when you do that, you need a train. Now, everybody starts out with 1 train. Free, doesn't penalize you at all. But every train after that you have to use costs you 2 points. So currently, I have to take 1 train here down to Kyoto. That's 1. And then I have to take 1 train back to Tokyo here, because I go from pink to blue. That's another 1. So I get negative points for that. And then if I kept all these blue and it only did blue, then that would be everything. But I'll probably add some more pink in here just so I can get some of those, well, for example, here are my choices now. And so I'm going to have to add some pink into my schedule here. And so What you want to try to avoid is sticking like a pink in the middle of two blues, right? Because then you have to take in a single day 2 different trains, and those trains can rack up negative points. Now, there are ways to take luxury trains. It's one of the bonuses. So let's talk about bonuses. So when I placed these these 3 Wednesday cards, it triggered the bonuses for Wednesday. Didn't trigger the scoring. This didn't do anything yet. That only happens at the end of the game, but it triggered the bonuses. And so it counts up how many of this tag I have in here, and I happen to have 3, which is great. So that means I can pick any of these bonuses. Now, the 3 is the best one, probably, but I will go through each one of them. This one, it just moves me up on the stress track. Now, this stress track is not going to move typically until you actually go through, and whenever you hit one of these arrows, it will go up and down. And as you can see, if you get too far on to one side or the other, you can start to either gain or lose points. So you do want to make sure you're not getting down here, because you can really start losing points there. So you want to keep it a bit balanced. And you can go for a strategy where you're just going all the way up to 20, because 20 is quite a few points. This one just lets you go up 1 on the, I guess they call it the mood track. I thought it was a stress track. Either way. For number 2, you have an option. You can either do one of these, which is a wild tag. And that wild tag, you can see here the 5 different tags that you'll need as you go through. Like this one needs 2 yellow, this one needs 3, or 2 pink, this one needs 3 yellow, and so forth. You can choose at any point along the time to use one of these wilds to give you a tag of a certain color. So if I got to this 3 yellow here and I only had the 2 yellow, I can spend one of these to get that extra 3rd yellow. You should also note that these, as you go through the week, these will go up, and we'll show a little bit of that on the scoring. But if they hit these certain points, you get extra points for them. So maybe you don't need the wild for any of the conditions of your highlights, but you've got a color that's like at 3. If you use it to go up to 4, that gives you an extra 4 points. So that's something to consider as well. So that's the wild token. Or you can take one of these 2 research tokens. These let you cycle cards, basically letting you, if I'm really looking for a blue card and I get a hand like this where it's mostly pink, I could spend one of these and it would let me draw 3 cards and then discard 3. And they could be the ones I drew or other ones. So it lets you cycle cards, and I can choose which deck, either the blue or the pink. So if I'm really looking for blue cards and I get all these pinks, I could spend one of these and draw 3 from the blue deck and then get rid of these pinks that I don't want, for example. So those are options. They're also points at the end of the game if you don't use them. Finally here, if you have 3 or more of the tokens, which I do, then you've got one of 2 options. The first is taking a luxury train. We talked about trains, how they're typically either your first one free or they minus 2 points. Well, this one is plus 2 points and it moves you up the track. So that's basically extra points when you have to take a train. These are nice just to have. If you have enough of them, you could even replace your starting train with them to get those extra points. So that's something that you have an option for, so that you don't have to use the standard minus 2 point trains. And you can see that I did that. That's why I have that train over here. Finally, it lets you, as a bonus, take a walk, but you don't get a research token. Let's talk about walks. So here's my situation again. Let's say I don't have a file folder and I really don't want any of these pinks, and this orange is just not useful for me. Maybe it's just giving me negative points and I have no way to do it. I can always take a walk. So it says you can choose a card or walk. When you walk, you discard one of these cards and you then take a card from either the blue or the pink deck and you place it face down on one of these spots. This is what the cards look like face down. They give you 1 up on the stress track, physical. They give you the walk symbol. They give you 1 point. And if they're the highlight, they give you 2 points. Not a great option, but there's some times when it's useful. So for example, if you just don't have a great option in your hand and you just really don't want to take any more negatives or whatever that might be, then maybe you do that. Or there are some cases where you need walk symbols to fulfill the highlight. So that could be an option too. Now the nice thing about this bonus here is that it gives you lets you take a walk and put it somewhere. I don't remember if you have to put it to that day. Yes, you put it on the same day. So if I took a walk instead, I would put it on Wednesday. So then I would have 4 cards on Wednesday. That's the only way that you can have more than 3 cards on a day. You wouldn't get a research token because typically when you take a walk, you do get a research token. It's kind of a help. Like if you're stuck, here's, play your walk card. It's not great, but you get a research token now, and so you can use it if you're getting stuck again. So taking a walk voluntarily is not usually the best option unless you're really trying to fulfill these conditions or all of the cards are just not what you're looking for. But getting a walk as a bonus is probably the best way to fulfill those conditions if you have that option. So that's what a walk is, and that's what you're able to do with the various bonuses. Your trains, your research tokens, your wild tokens, moving up the stress track, and so forth. Note that we are here on round 9, and you're going to play 2 of these cards and then pass 2. And then for the final 4, again, you're going to have only 4 slots eventually, and you are going to play 1 and pass 1. And in the very final round, you actually get one of the passed cards, but then you also get to choose either from pink or blue, whichever one you need, which is nice because you're going to have 1 spot. And if my last spot was right here, I really wouldn't want a blue card because it would cost me 2 trains to go blue and then pink again. All right, I'm going to go to the end because that's where the scoring happens and just walk through that a little bit. All right, we are at the end of the game and we're into the scoring. And BGA is nice about it. It doesn't just zoom through and figure out all your scores for you or optimal scores. It walks you through each step so you understand what you're getting, what you want to do, and gives you options along the way. So the first thing that you need to do is decide what color you want your orange ones to be. So in this case, I obviously want this one to be blue because my day is going blue, blue, and then Friday is blue as well. So I want to definitely keep this blue. This one, though, doesn't matter because if it were blue, it stays blue. If it were pink, again, it's still a single train. So I choose this one to be blue. And it will mark a little bit of the T for Tokyo there. And I end up choosing this one to be blue as well, just to make it easy. Sorry, BGA is going to make me walk through everybody else's turn while I'm doing my own. Once I'm done with that, now I have to deal with trains after everybody else. All right, so then it will show me, okay, here's a spot where you need to make a train because I'm going from blue to pink. And I could choose either my start train, my luxury train, which I have 1 of, or just a regular -2 train. I choose the luxury train. Then here's another spot where I need to do it. In that case, I will use my starting train. And then I end up only needing 3 trains total. I've planned it out okay. And so it put my -2 train there. So I will get -2 points, but I offset it with that luxury train, so that's nice. All right, now that I'm done with that, and everybody else is performing their trains, each one is going to go through each day. It looks to see if I have a walk. Now, why does it care that I have a walk? Well, and this is something I forgot to mention earlier, but the other benefit of a walk, it's not just the 1 point and the tags and maybe the 2 point that you get. When you hit a walk, you can then, at the end, when you're scoring, flip it over and see if you want to use the other side. Maybe it's going to give you more points, maybe it's going to help your tags, or maybe it's going to give you negative stress that you don't want to deal with. And so you get the option of either keeping the walk or using the new thing that you just flipped over. So there's a bit of a risk reward there, but you always have the backup and just having the walk there. It's another reason maybe to take a walk, even if it's not great points. You do have that option to get that back. So it says, all right, you don't have a walk. We're going to continue through. It's going to count up all of my tags and move these tags symbols on the tracks. So you can see my yellow moved up 3, and then my stress moved up 1 and then back to 2. It was already at 1, so it's basically at neutral again. And then it says, hey, before you score your highlight, you could use one of your wild tokens. I don't need to in this case because I just needed 2 of the negative financial stress, which I have, 1, 2, and that gives me 7 points. So I continue on. And get 7 points. And it checks that off and goes throughout the day. This basically happens through each day. It's looking whether I have the highlight completed. It's moving my tokens around. It's asking if I want to use the wild tokens as I go. Looking if I have any walks and want to flip those over. I ended up only using the wild tokens to increase to get to these point levels because I was able to get all of my highlights without needing the extras. But once you go through each of the day, you get your final score. And as everybody gets their final scores, whoever has the highest score wins. That is how you play Let's Go to Japan on Board Game Arena. I hope this was helpful. Thanks.